the book, it's like I mentioned yesterday, in the first page, they also have some compositions in here, but I'm not supposed to talk about that, although we can if you like, later, if you have any questions about the composition. So it starts with and or, you know, and then each week we progress to but, and you know, when you're teaching things like and, but, if, what are some of the, you know, there are lots of small details that you have to pay attention to. What are some of those details that you always have to make sure the students know when you're combining two sentences? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Punctuation.
Punctuation.
Capitalization.
Sorry?
Capitalization.
Capitalization, yeah. Is that right? Is that a word, capitalization?
Oh, it's a noun.
Yeah. And also changing the names to pronouns, right? You can't say like, you know, if Mike goes to work, Mike will earn some money. You've got to change the Mike to he. So there's lots of little details that they need to be aware of. And you'll be surprised, like when Gillian marks the test, I'm quite nosy. I'm always interested to see what mistakes the students are making, because you know, like kids often lose points for punctuation. Yes. They forget the period, they forget the comma. And again, I'm not sure if that's because they really don't know, or is it just because they are careless. So I would like to hope that it's just because they're careless. And if they're careless, then one thing that we must do during the time when we're teaching these units is to make them careful. Because forgetting the punctuation and the commas, they're very silly points to lose. If they get the sentence the wrong way around, or if they forget a few words, well, you know, sometimes that's unavoidable. But the punctuation, they really have to master that. I think that's the basic thing. So, if you'd just like to take a look at the notes, the first page says, before you start to teach any unit, the teacher must be familiar with all of the rules in here. I don't know about you, but I seldom ask the students to look through these. I always feel that this is more of a reference for me. Sometimes the students can feel a bit bored when they're just looking through all of the examples, and sometimes it's better just to jump into the action, jump into the water and start doing them. However, you know, as you can see here, I'm sure all of your schools, you put lots of posters on the walls, right? To help them during the semester and on the test day. Test time is like, what's this one? Oh, that's a useful poster. Come on, we all do that, right? Yeah, so I always like to take a look. Through here, so I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And even though I've done it many, many times now, I'm not proud that I think, oh, I know it already, I can just go straight into it. I need to remind myself. Just like yesterday, I forgot someone, I think it was you asked me a question about the if. Remember, I couldn't think of any examples for the if, my mind went blank, so I need to remind myself. Okay, so they can look through that if you want to, but they might get bored. But if they're interested to take a look at it, they can. But for me, it's my reference. Right, let me find if. So, in this unit, the book doesn't actually mention this word, conditional. If you do round up 4, have you ever done that unit? Yeah, no, we have. Round up 3. You have conditional type 0, type 1, type 2, and then the one from hell, which is type 3. Yeah, oh my god, what a nightmare that is, teaching that. But fortunately, this unit isn't so bad because we're only doing conditional type 1 and conditional type 0. So that it's not It's not very complicated. The other problem, though, as I know, is that often a second grade student, a second grade class could be doing this book, and there could also be in another school, there could be a fourth grade class doing this book. So obviously their ability to learn, perhaps even their attitude towards learning it could be quite different. So with the level 2 class, I would dumb it down, try and make it as simple as possible, and then if they get it, then I can start increasing the difficulty level. And with the older kids, I would have higher expectations for them. But that all depends on which students you have. So, I'm going to explain this, and you probably know, I'm not trying to teach you English, but just to explain it anyway. Conditional type 1, we use this to, I've written it there, but basically we use it to when we want to talk about a fact. Okay? So if you mix blue and red, you get purple. Okay? So in conditional type 1, the if clause is simple present, and the main clause, which is the result, is also simple present. So I think that's quite an easy one to teach. Yes.
Condition 0, not 1.
Huh?
It's try to say conditional 1.
Did I? Oh, I'm always doing that. When I want to say conditional 0, I say conditional 1. I drive my students mad. Michael, conditional 1. Yeah. I'm always forgetting it. I can't remember people's names even. So, and then you've got a habit. Also, it could be a habit. It's something, because you can actually say like, if my students don't listen, I will. Because it could be like a warning for the future, right? But in fact, it's not just something that I will do, it's something that I always do. So sometimes these ones, you could say, this teacher, I will be angry, if you're just talking about time in the future. But this is a habit, so again, it can fit in under conditional type 0. And then another thing, and it's not mentioned in the book, so I checked online last night just to be a good little boy and do my homework. And it says also instructions when you're giving, so like don't lend him money if he asks you, you know, or do your whole. I can't think of it. Let's just take a look at these. Can you read this one? It's just a little joke. Do you know what Jehovah's Witnesses are? There are no Jehovah's Witnesses here, are there? I have to be careful, I don't want to offend anybody. Do you know, who knows how to say Jehovah's Witnesses in Chinese? Yeah, those people who knock on your door on Sunday morning, trying to spread the word of the Lord, which is fine, I don't mind that, but don't knock on my door at 6 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, in England we always make jokes about them. If Jehovah's Witnesses knock on your door, pretend you're not at home. Yeah? Don't go to the door and open the door and be rude, like I usually am. Alright? Anyway, so those are just some examples. And then conditional type 1 is the tricky one. Because what you do is, in conditional type 1, the if clause will be in simple present, but the main clause, which is the result, will require you to use simple future, will, and also it can also be some modal verbs like can, could, or might. So this is the tricky one. So we got an example here. Here is a promise. We will watch a movie if you work hard, but it could also be we can watch a movie if you work hard. We might watch a movie if you work hard. We may, right? Not really must. And then a warning, if you touch it, it will bite you. And if it rains, we will cancel the sports day, like last time. So these are the two conditionals that you need to know. Okay, these are the ones that hopefully my students can master in the next 2 weeks, because you have 2 weeks to teach it. Okay? So, oh, and also I'm pretty confident that in 2 weeks you should have enough time to complete all of these pages. There's quite a lot. There's quite a lot, and sometimes, don't be upset, Kathleen. I feel maybe there are too many examples in there. You know, I think we can reduce them, because if you've taught this book before, do you ever find that if you try and do too many, the children start feeling bored? So I know, like, maybe if the teacher is not very well prepared, they might just think, okay, well, what am I going to do? Okay, I'll just get them to fill in as many as they can. And halfway through that hour, they're going to start losing interest. They're going to start making mistakes. So, just like I said yesterday, try and break it up. Don't do it all at once. And if you have 2 hours, maybe you could do 1 hour on Monday and 1 hour on Thursday or whatever. Not 2 hours solid. It's just too much. If you feel bored, they'll feel bored. Right. So, by the time you reach Unit 10, the students, they've already been doing things like and but. So I think they should already have a good understanding of the punctuation and the rules. So basically, it's just continuing to make sure that they get the punctuation right. They capitalize the words when they should. They change the name to a pronoun when they should. But the most difficult thing is, and if you've taught this, you will know this, that sometimes there are students, you give them 2 sentences and they have to combine them, and they just get it the wrong way round. You know? So, for example, like, my parents fight if I usually cheer for my mum. It doesn't make sense, right? So the one thing that I like to get them do is when they're doing the exercises, I want them to stand, and I want them to say the sentence for me, and I will deliberately tell them, try both ways. Try both ways. Consider both ways, because the students sometimes they automatically think that the first sentence is going to be the first sentence of the combination, and it's not always that way. You know, the book will sometimes try to trick them in, and in the test we definitely try to put the sentences in a different order. So you've got to break that habit. They've got to be aware that they need to try both ways. Some students will just know it instantly, and other students, they're guessing. So they're just putting it in the wrong order. So the way I deal with that is, and I want them to have a sense of the languages, I want them to say it. Sometimes, several times, keep on saying it. Listen to yourselves. And when they make a sentence that is wrong, I'll show them how silly it sounds, you know, get them laughing. They realize, yeah, that doesn't make sense at all. If I usually cheer for my mum, my parents fight, it just doesn't make sense. It's the wrong way round. And some of those slower students, sometimes it's frustrating because they still get it wrong again and again, but you just have to keep on persevering with them. And if there are some slow ones and you've got some extra time, sit with them and not have them write. Tell them to put their pens down. Don't need a pen. Just speak to me. And if they get it wrong, okay, now try the other way. And listen to yourself. And then often they will eventually get it right. And if they do that, if you ask them to do it 3, 4, 5, 6 times and they start getting it right, well then that will build up a bit of confidence. And that's what we want to do, is right, give them some more confidence. Okay? So for this unit, oh yeah, by the time you reach this unit, the students should already be familiar with the style of the book. And you would have realized that that simply filling in sentence after sentence can be boring and even counterproductive. Do you know the meaning of counterproductive? Counterproductive is like, you know, you're trying to help the students, but if you just get them to write too many sentences and they get bored, well, probably they'll stop learning and maybe start becoming careless, or their minds will go blank. So it's just like you can teach too much.
Backfire.
Yeah, and then it backfires, and then they don't progress, they digress, they go backwards. And sometimes you can feel that yourself. So when you feel bored, just say, okay, let's stop, let's take a break, you know. And if they're happy to do it, then fine, you know, go ahead. So, excuse me. In week one, I like to, it's right there. In week one, I like to introduce the unit and then complete page 53 and 54. Okay? Page 53 is quite it doesn't take so much time because basically the sentences are already written for the students. They're already done. So the only thing that the students need to do is read these sentences, and then together you can find out if the sentence is correct or if it's wrong. And if it's wrong, then they need to write it correctly on the line below. It's very simple. You can see that for yourself. Students having highlight pens. I said it yesterday and I'll say it again. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. The students need to highlight things. And it's very, how can I talk with this? It's very helpful. So for example, if you want them to highlight something, maybe on this page you can ask them to highlight the mistakes. So for example here it says, you will get tired easily if you don't sleep well. Oh sorry, that's the correct answer, sorry. See, I didn't sleep well last night. You will get tired easily, comma, if you won't sleep well. Now, what are we going to ask them to highlight here? Well, the first thing that they should spot is, I'll read it for you one more time because you don't have it. If you get tired easily, comma, you won't sleep well. It's completely wrong. Completely wrong. Number one, if you've got if in the middle, there shouldn't be a comma, right? So you know that, but I would ask them to tell me what's wrong. You know? So I would say, like, can anybody find a mistake? And then someone says, oh, there shouldn't be a comma there. Okay, so highlight that. Is there anything else? You will get tired easily if you won't sleep well. Well, at this point when I start doing this page, I would have actually done this with them first. Because I can't expect them to know what's wrong if I haven't explained it yet. Or if I haven't at least given them a few examples of it. So, I won't start looking at that book yet. In the first hour, I will just introduce it on the whiteboard. You know, I feel jealous sometimes. Because there are some teachers, they seem to be really good at making a nice display on the whiteboard. I know Teacher Gordon, I don't know if you know Teacher Gordon. Teacher Gordon always makes nice whiteboard displays. Teacher Matt, he's always good. I always walk past this.
It's artistic.
Yeah, it's artistic. Oh, what nice whiteboard. Mine's so bloody ugly. I try I used to be good, but yeah, I'm getting old now. I'm a miserable old man. Anyway, so this is what I might do on the whiteboard. Now, first thing here is the if clause. Now, do we really expect the students to understand what the if clause is? No. I couldn't even begin to explain it. I'll just say it's the if part of the sentence, right? Although I might try to tell, if they're a smart class, if they're an older class, I might try to introduce what conditional type 1 is. And then I would tell them conditional type 1 is about a fact, a habit, or an instruction. And then, I'll show them in type 1, we have if, and it's always with this, what's wrong?
Keep on saying it,
Did I do it again?
Yeah.
If I say type 1,
That
just know I mean type 0. Otherwise, we'll just spend all day. I'm not going to get anywhere. Okay. Type 0. Alright, the if clause always begins with if, and then it's simple present. So then I would ask the students to read these for me. So, if you heat ice, you know? If you heats ice, no. No. So when would we add s? If he or she. But actually, doesn't matter if it's he or she or you or me, because it won't make a difference. It's a fact, right? If I heat ice, it will melt, and if you heat ice, it will start speaking Spanish. It's a fact, it won't change, so it makes no difference. So then we got it here. So if you heat ice, and then they'll say ice melts. And then this is when I can say, wait a minute, stop. Can you read that sentence again, everybody?
If you heat ice, ice melts.
Now, what's the thing we need to change here? Ice. You know, if the students say, if you heat ice, ice melts, is it wrong? No, but we would just prefer them not to keep on repeating the noun. Gillian, when you are marking tests, if the students wrote a sentence like this, if you heat ice, ice melts. If the punctuation is correct, would you take away a point?
No.
No. What would you do?
Because at least they write the sentence already. I will underline that ice. I will
Right,
take away
right.
the
So we won't. So I know some people worry about that because you know in the test, I told you yesterday, in the test for this we'll give them 5 sentences and each sentence is 3 points. So if they, I know for example, if their punctuation is wrong, they'll lose 1 point. If, for example, if they didn't correctly spell, sorry? Pronoun. No, if they didn't use the pronouns but the sentence is, we won't take the points away. Will we? No. No. Because it's not really wrong to say if you heat ice, ice melts. But we would prefer them to say it melts. But we won't take away points for that. We'll just think, no, the teacher didn't teach it. But no one will find out. And then again here, if plants don't get enough water, they die. So the students are starting to realize that if you're going to say the same word twice, we need to replace it with the correct pronoun. There's a silly one. If my parents fight, I usually cheer for my mum. Go on, mum! Get him done! Alright? Well, you can even have some fun. No, when my parents fight, I cheer for my dad. Okay? And then, after we've done this, so we've explained, we've introduced the idea of replacing the nouns with pronouns so that we don't sound, I always tell them we don't want to be like a broken CD. Right? Every morning John wakes up. Then John brushes his teeth. Then John goes downstairs. Then John... Stop saying John! Just say he. We don't want to be like a broken CD, right? So at this point, I would ask the students to, although it can be quite time consuming, especially when you've got an hour, if you've got a lot to do, but I would invite some students to come to the whiteboard to do this. And the students that I choose will often be the ones that I don't trust. You know, so in my class, I often spend a little time talking to my smarter students, and I will say to them, you know, sometimes if I don't pick you, it's because I trust you. I know that you're smart, and I will. Of course, I still give them lots of opportunity to talk, but I tell them, can you please be patient because I need to help the weaker ones, and if they don't know the answers, then I'm going to choose you. So, because there's a danger, right? If you focus on the slower ones, the smarter ones will get bored. So if you just have a little chat with them and they'll say, oh, Teacher Michael's not asking me because I'm smart. so then the slow ones get it wrong and then I'll say, okay genius, come on, stand up and tell everybody. And they get it wrong too. And I think, okay, now I have a class without even one genius here. So then I would get them to come to the whiteboard and say, okay Johnny, come and write the first sentence. And then, oh, this candy's so big, it's hot. Then when they come to the whiteboard, then I get a chance to make sure that they can use the punctuation too. You know? So they come to, if you heat ice, and then the comma, because I always do this as well. Sometimes just the way to teach a comma, it's a very simple idea. And if I'm being obvious, I'm sorry about that. I'll say like, if you heat ice, if you heat ice, it melts. If you heat ice, it melts. Does that sound strange? Because when you don't have the comma, there's no pause, right? So I would deliberately say, if you heat ice it, when there's no comma, if you heat ice it, and then I'll say, so don't you need to stop for a moment in the middle of that sentence? Say it again. If you heat ice,
It melts.
I know I sometimes do this. I don't know why. But it helps. Yeah, sometimes body language. If you don't know the answer, get out. Right? So, and then the sentences are interchangeable, right? So, on the second sentence, I will ask them to reverse the sentence. And of course, then you get an opportunity to explain the next thing, which is, for example, if they've changed this to it, then they might think, oh, it melts if you heat the ice. But that's not right too, right? You've got to change it around. So if ice melts, ice melts if you heat it, you know? So, you know, some students are going to get it, and some students won't. And then you've got things, the other thing you have to remember is like, you know, when you've got ice, it would be it. If it would be stars, it would be
They.
them, right? So you've got the it and the them. So those are little things like when you're making worksheets for them, you want to give them, you want to deliberately include lots of examples where they're going to have to, you know, they have to remember if it's going to be it or if it's going to be them. You know, so give them lots of practice. So when you're designing those worksheets, you want to try and give them a good variety of sentences that will cover all of the things that could be in the big test, right? So, you know, you can go through this, all right, and hopefully you can do that in about half an hour. Maybe some oral practice. Maybe, some things that I like to do is I like students to tell me some facts, just some scientific facts. But then last night I was trying to think of some scientific facts, and they're actually not. It's not so easy to think of many. But I was like thinking, like, you know, if you, what is it now? You've got the colours. If you mix blue and red, you get. If the temperature goes below 0. Water freezes.
If you boil the water.
Yeah. So if you were planning to teach the idea of a fact, and maybe you wanted to teach that as a vocabulary, because if I was teaching this unit in the week, I would definitely put fact in their vocabulary, because I like to incorporate not just the vocabulary that are in Incredible English and the storybooks, because that is where the vocabulary that will be tested on the big test comes from the reading books and the Incredible English. But I still like to use other words from other units because it's fresh in their mind. So if you wanted to get them to use some facts, but maybe they can't think of any, then it would be nice, if you're handy, if you've made a little list in your pocket, and then maybe you could write some words on the board as a prompt. You could know like temperature, freeze. I can't think of any more scientific facts at the moment. Or, for example, instructions. You know, you can often like don't. Look. No, what would it be? If you see a doctor if you have a cough. You know, it's an instruction. Or, for example, don't go out if it's dark. You know, it's just warnings. You can ask all the students, okay, I want you to give me some warnings or some instructions. You know, run if there is a fire in your house. Or don't panic if there is a fire. You know. So there are instructions, and you can get the students, and the students will enjoy doing that. But again, you have to watch the time as well. So then we move on to the next one. And again, I've just changed it around, and I've got here the main clause and the if clause. And then again, I'll show them, because this is the trickier one, right? This is the trickier one. So here we got the result. The result must be the simple future, which is will, or, excuse me, you can also use can, could, might, may, right? So, and then here, this part, it keeps the simple present. I'm just telling you the things that you need to tell the kids, that's all. So, I will run up, and then here, rather than doing it exactly the same as this, with these ones, I've mixed them up because we can have a little bit of fun that way. You know, so I could ask them to read them the way that they're written. So would you? I will run away.
I will run away.
If we keep on polluting the planet. So where are you going to run? If we keep on polluting, then you can discuss why this sentence is silly, right? You can say, okay, kid, so you will run away if we keep on polluting the planet. Okay, so where are you going to run? To Jupiter. Maybe you could say, maybe you should say, I will fly to another planet. But it doesn't fit. So then I'll ask them to read it. Again, the second one. Could you read it? Jack will.
Jack will break the furniture if my parents force me to
Does that sound? Jack will break the furniture if my parents force me to marry Tom. Well, perhaps if Jack is in love with you. Yeah, perhaps there's a love triangle. It's possible. I'm just glad it doesn't say Jane. Because Jack will break the furniture if my parents force me to marry Jane. So that means that Jack's in love with another guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, we're an open society now. Okay? And then here, the sea level will keep rising if his favourite football team loses again. Which is true, because on Saturday my favourite football team lost and she in the end flooded. From my tears. Okay, so then right now I would ask the students to okay, so who can connect the sentences? So someone will come to the board, right? Very simple. Jack will run away. Hang on, I've got this wrong here.
I ran away to marry Tom. If my parents forced me to marry Tom.
Yeah, sorry. I don't even know the answer myself.
Yes.
I will run away if my parents force me to marry Tom. Jack will break the furniture. Football team loses again, and the sea level will rise if we keep on polluting the planet. Now, one problem that I find in some of the exercise books is the sentences can sometimes be very long and not the way that kids would speak in their own lives. So one example is here on page number 55. It's a really long one. It says, Jimmy will take computer lessons and study hard. You know this one. There was so much fun filling that one in. Every time I get to that one, it's like, okay. Oh, not this one again. And if Jimmy, and then hopefully now they know, if Jimmy takes, remember you've told them that for this one, if always comes in the present simple. Now I can explain it to you here and now in 1 second, but you know, if you were talking to kids, they're not just going to understand it. You need to keep on repeating that and repeating that and repeating that again and again and again. But you've mentioned it once before. So, yeah, like this one. If Jack takes computer lessons and studies hard, he will be good at using the computer and helping his father with his business. Whew. I can almost run out of breath. So with sentences like, Teacher Kathleen, it's okay. I don't blame you completely. But they just have to do it. You know, I'm not sure if I should say this, but in this book here, it's got 4 lines. So I guess the book expects us to write it with if clause at the front, and then interchange it on the second line. Now, I don't mind interchanging sentences, but I prefer if we don't have to interchange the longest sentence in history. You know? So, I say this sometimes, I won't ask them to write the second sentence. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to do that. But what I do is, sometimes I might just get them to write a different sentence on there. Because if I feel that the sentence is too long and I just think it's not going to help them in any way. But if I don't do a sentence, I'll fill it up with another sentence so that when they come to check the books, they can say, oh, well, Michael didn't do that sentence, but he did something. He wasn't lazy. Otherwise, we could all just say, I don't like this sentence, we're not going to do it. We don't have the right to do that, right? But if we replace it with something else, you won't mind, will you? Will the people who check the books mind? So long as we've done something there, right? Okay?
Good idea.
So don't worry about that. And you know that there are mistakes in the books as well. So no, but you see my worksheets, they're full of mistakes. Because teacher Gillian's agreeing. Sometimes it's even fun. Sometimes the students enjoy finding the mistakes. They're really good at finding the book's mistakes, but they can't find their own. You all know that, right? Teacher Michael, you made a mistake. Yeah, you made 15. Did I say anything to you? Yeah, I did. Okay, a taste of your own medicine, Michael. Okay, so where are we? So a nice whiteboard display just to introduce the stuff, and then for the second hour, not on the second day, then my goal would be to finish I think it's page 53 to page 54. Okay, there are 4 pages in the unit. So I think that, an hour to get this done, could be quite easy if they're older and they're more motivated. If they're slower, it's going to take more time. And also, whenever I do an exercise in the book, from the first day, I want the students to really take pride in their work. And sometimes it's difficult to encourage the students to take pride in something that perhaps they're not very interested in. But it's possible to motivate them. And one simple thing, and I'm sure every teacher in all of the schools, they have lots of different ideas about this, and I would love to hear other people's ideas. But I have a few things that I do. They're not spectacular, no magical ways. I like to take pictures of children. I'm not bien. Okay. And all the students, all the students in the classroom. I've got about 400, so I only brought about 7. Okay, and then let's say here on the first page, on the second page, because we'll probably do this together. But on the second page, I think, okay, now it's going to be your first chance to do something with no help at all. Because at the end of the day, when they're doing the test, no one is going to be holding their hands. But again, if they're a young class and if they're struggling, you may have to hold their hand through it. But if you're brave enough and if you're confident enough, I will turn this page into a test. So there are 5 sentences that they need to combine. And what I would do is, maybe something like this. Every student will begin with 5 points. Okay, and then I give them, okay, if they need 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever they need to finish the page. And I'll say, start working. Now, I'm a person, when my kids are working, I love to interrupt. I'm always disturbing them. So sometimes the reason they make mistakes is because I keep on making jokes while they're working. But I'm also walking around and just keeping an eye on them, and I keep on reminding them about the things like, for example, I know that when we've just begun and they're doing number 1, I'm going to say, remember instructions like don't, or if they're doing the third one and there's a couple of rules. Remember, when we are using will, we won't use will in both parts of the sentences. We only use present simple in the if clause. So giving them clues, talking to them, and then, you know, after a while, some students start finishing and you see them putting their pens down. Okay, putting their earphones. Oh, wait, no, double check. Double check, right? Make sure you double check. And then eventually time is up. And then we start. I ask everyone to stand up and I want them to read their answers. Now, perhaps, because I don't have a chance to check the book right now, but they stand up and they read their answer. You get someone raises their hand, they get it right. And I'll say, okay, great. So if you wrote that, I'll ask them to repeat it. Repeat the answer again. Don't wait for me if I am late tomorrow. And I always, fingers, use your fingers. Don't just say it. Because I want them to, you want to develop their double checking ability. Because I was talking to my friend teacher H on the phone recently. And we both said the same thing. Some students don't actually know what double check means.
True.
Double check, they think double check means, did I write something? Yes. Yes, but what you wrote is 废话. Yeah, but I wrote something. Yeah, check what you wrote. Is it right? Don't just say, oh yeah, I wrote something there. So I want them to double check it, and then when we're reading it, pointing their fingers, because it's amazing, like, you know, some students are absent-minded, even the smart ones. You know, they're just overconfident. Don't wake me if I am late tomorrow. Don't wake me if I'm late tomorrow. Done, yeah. You know, and you forgot 4. You know? So, everybody who got it right can sit down. And you want to understand what mistakes they made, right? You want to know what mistakes they made so that in the future, you know what you need to do to help them. So let's say the first round, okay, everybody got it right except Dora. Sorry, Dora. Okay, the points start going down. Then the second one, we go through there. Anybody, and I get them to come and erase a point. Now maybe this is a little bit embarrassing for them if their scores go down. If everyone's got 5 and poor Dora is down to 1, Dora's not going to feel very proud or very confident of herself, but I don't care. No, I do care, but well, the thing is, then I'll be very nice and I won't shout, right? And I will say, well, Dora, then you've got a problem, and I know that I need to give Dora some extra help, you know. But then maybe the next time we do it, on the 6th page, or another time we do the same exercise. Let's say Wilson got 3, Jenny got 4, she got 3. Yeah, is that pretty successful? No, I wouldn't really be. I'd be happy that some of them are strong, but I'd be very disappointed about these ones, you know. And maybe these mistakes are punctuation or spelling. So then hopefully, if I give them a reward, and the reward is whatever you want to do. It could be a candy, it could be, I know, like I said, videos, or simply a break time. Break time is a reward in my class. Okay? And then the next time you do that, hopefully, they'll all be eager and motivated. Okay, I'm gonna get a good score too.
John Michael, would you ask them to say about punctuation if or about comma?
Oh yeah, I do that. Yeah, like if you go shopping, comma, please. Yeah, I get them to do that as well. Yeah, it's a good habit. But not when they're having conversations, not just free talking. Michael, if you, comma, my students start doing that, then I say, Teacher Michael, are you a pig? Question mark. I think so, period. Yes, comma, I am, period. It's funny, but, you know, it means they're learning, right? And then they'll say, Teacher Michael, what's a semicolon? Oh, don't ask me about that. Yeah, so then the next time they do this, you know, after being publicly humiliated the first time, hopefully the next time you do it, you'll notice that scores will start going up. With any luck, you know, Dora's made progress. Jenny's got, Adrian's made a mistake, but Wilson's gone up, and Chloe's gone up, and they're progressing, right? You know, and it's all about, because the goal has got to be, make those students as accurate as they can possibly be. And the only way to make them accurate is by making them care about how well they do. Because we can tell them 1,000 times, but if they don't care, or if they're not interested, then it might not change. The silly little mistakes will continue. And you know, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating when they get their test scores and they've lost like 2 points. They could have got 100 and they forgot. Period! Oh God, how many times have I told you? Question mark. Use a period. Period. So you're trying to get rid of all those annoying little mistakes, right? So yeah, something like this, anything like this. Another thing, and I don't have a piece of paper to show it. But Teacher Jin, could you pass me the piece of paper on the wall behind you? Another thing that I use, again, to motivate them to get to be perfect. That's my goal. I want everyone to be perfect. So that's why I'm always disappointed. Alright, so you make a little piece of paper on the wall. You've got all the students' names there. And then it could be for anything. It could be for the motivated writing. It could be for incredible English. If you give them a set of questions and they do it under a test condition, and it could be like a true or false exercise. You've got 10 true or false questions or whatever. And then you give them scores. So, for example, in this week, I'm going to give you a worksheet with 10 questions, true or false, about the reading or about the science in incredible English, you know. And obviously the best score is 10 out of 10. So if any students that get 10 out of 10, they go to this piece of paper. It's like a record, right? And they can record their scores. So you can see all the scores. They write the date, and then they've got all their scores there. Now the first week, you know, first week's fine, and as you do it more and more often, I will tell them, okay, right now I'm going to give you a chance. I want you to colour in all of the boxes where you got a perfect score. You know, so if you do that week by week by week, it can become like a little competition whereby, like, oh, Paul's got 8 perfect scores and Stephen's only got 3. You know, So it's like a competition, but it's a way to motivate them. They'll be more eager. They want to get more and more and more perfect scores. And then I'll reward the ones. Sometimes students don't get perfect scores. They're just not smart enough. But if you can see that they're progressing, then you can still feel happy. If they started off with 4 or 5 out of 10, and then they've reached 8 out of 10, it's pretty good. It's an improvement, right? And that's what we want. We can't expect everyone to be on exactly the same level. Okay? Excuse me. So if we go to page 3, oh, I've done that already. Right, week 2, second hour. Oh, week 1, sorry, second hour. I've just explained it, right? Second hour of the week, we just get the workbooks filled because we need to do that. That's something we have to do. All right. Oh, here's one. In some of the questions, can you give me a moment to write something on the board? I like some of the sentences in the book because sometimes they start, rather than just using the one conjunction, they start using a few conjunctions that they've learned in the past. So for example, one sentence in the book is, I will have lots of money someday. When? I want to know when. It hasn't happened yet. I will buy. In the book it says a comfortable car. I changed it to expensive. Sometimes the best cars aren't very comfortable. And I will travel around the world. Right. This, if you've got a young class, this can be quite tricky, but if you've got an older class, their comprehension will be a little bit better. What are they going to need to do here? Of course, the unit is about if, but can you join these? Can anybody join it for me? Anybody? See, even though we're all adults, we still need to think about it. Yeah, even when it's latest. Right, now, exactly. Now, if you've got the highlight pens, you're going to discuss this before. You're going to say, okay, well, what are we going to highlight here? What words are we not going to use? Because sometimes I need to highlight the words that they're not going to use. So we're going to highlight, so it's going to be if I travel, if I have lots of money someday. So it will be if, and then we're going to highlight will, because this is the if clause, right? So we're not going to use will. If I have lots of money someday, and then I will buy an expensive car, and you don't need to say I will again. I will buy an expensive car and travel around the world. All right. Now, if you've got a smarter class, it will be good to stretch them. You know, see if you can get them even smarter. Maybe you can get them to use things like and but and if in the same sentence. So another example. I'll write it as quickly as I can. But highlighting it is, because I was teaching this book recently, and I really found that the highlight pen was, every time I use highlight pens, I always think it's such a useful tool. And you'll sometimes find that the harder working students, you don't need to remind them to do it. And then you get some students, they forget to do it. You have to keep on reminding them. And sometimes it's those students that make the mistakes. So you've got to get them into the habit. I demand them, no, it's not, you can highlight it if you want to. You have to. You have to highlight it. So we got one here. This is a trickier one that's not in the book, but you can maybe, again, I've got one example here. And last night I spent about 5 minutes trying to think about a good example. Because, you know, sometimes your mind goes blank. Sometimes I can come into the classroom and I'm just bursting with ideas. And then other days my mind is just like, oh, I can't think of anything. We all have those days, right? So if you've got a little list prepared, it's going to be really handy for you. Otherwise you're going to be standing in the front of the whiteboard going, wait a minute guys, if you smoke in front of, you smoke in front of children, you terrible human being, then your children will copy you. You'd better quit. Anybody? You notice in the book sometimes they will give you the word, right? Or maybe it will be the big I. Sometimes the book doesn't give you anything. There's no clue whatsoever. Anybody would like to put it together for me? So, yeah, comma, so you better quit. Right. So this way, you're not only teaching if, but you're also reviewing so. You know, you can do one, you can review the or and the and, because you can't just like teach a unit and then once the test is over, think, okay, well, let's move forward. Bring everything up again, keep it fresh in their mind. Right. So, lots of little things like this, especially if you've got a smarter class. Challenge them if you can. Having a list of these will be great practice, especially if you've got some extra time at the end of the class. And I always find that when you've got a good group of kids, they enjoy a challenge. You know, you can really see them trying really hard and it's pleasing, it makes you feel good. Right. Week 2, first hour. Right. In the second week, once you get to the second week, you open your books and you see, oh look, you've still got 2 more pages to write. So at least one day, 1 hour of this week, you're just going to have to write. You know, it's going to be tough. They're just going to have to go through all of these because you've got to get to the end of it, right? You want them to finish this, but I like to do this. I like to do this first because if I can finish this, then I know that in the other hour I can start doing some of my own things. So I want to get this done. Excuse me. So week 2, I like to get the writing done so that I can do some of my own ideas, worksheets. However, when you're doing that, sometimes, you know, your guys, come on guys, just finish it as quickly as possible so that we can do something different. Now, I sometimes say that and then my teacher will correct me because it sounds like I don't really care about it. So you've got to maintain, okay guys, we want to do this quickly, but we're going to make sure that we do this carefully. So maybe I get out those photos again, you know, or maybe I say, okay, today your score's going to be on that list, right? So you're going to be more careful, yes, Teacher Michael. Okay, so maybe asking them to do all of them is a little bit too much. So I would say, okay, the first page from number 6 to number 10 we'll do together. And then from number 11 to number 16, you're going to do it all by yourself. Okay? So this might not be the most interesting lesson because they're just getting the workbooks done, they're filling in the exercises. But again, while you're doing it and after they've written it, you're getting them to read the sentences and to say the things, and you're listening to their mistakes, you know. And then so you can find out again. You want to write who's having a problem, who's not having a problem, what mistakes they're making. Okay, they still, you know, for example, like you've got like he will go shopping, he will buy a new oven. If he, they might write, if he goes shopping, he will buy a new oven. Well, they forgot if he goes, right? It's an easy mistake to make. They take away the will, they write go, but they forget that it's he. You know, so again, in those weekly tests or in any worksheets, you've got to give them plenty of practice at that. Sharpen them, sharpen them. Sharpen their minds. Yeah. Sharpen or simply cut off the top. Okay, so in that, say that second week, first hour, you've got all the writing done, and then you can do something which is so satisfying. You can close this book and you can put it away until next week. You can even feel the in the air. Okay, right. Is there anything else here? Oh, okay. Right. Actually, we're coming close to the end of what I have to say here. So, week 2, second hour, page 5. Okay, with the book finally completed, you'll be free to review and practice weaker points. So, you know, I always find that, like the one I just said, like when you take away the will, but then they forget to change the verb to the third person. It's always a tough one. And there are always some students who know it, and then there are some students who just get it wrong and wrong again. And then you've got those students who completely get the whole sentence the wrong way round, you know. So again, with some of those students, they'll need some of your own special time if you can. Anyway. So where is it now? You could, oh, this is what I said before. When you've got the time to review, to do your own things, what I like to do is, I like to kill 2 birds, maybe even 3 birds. No, I'm not literally kill because I love animals, but I like to kill 2 or 3 birds with 1 stone. You know the expression, right? So, and I told you that we don't get as much time as we like for the students just to be able to speak, to actually be able to use the language, but I still find it. So one thing that I've got here on the paper is, I was looking at the schedule, and if I'm correct, I'm probably wrong, but if I'm correct, the week that we do if is the same week that we are teaching about photosynthesis, I think. Photosynthesis, you know what that is, where our plants make their food. And it's one of the science subjects in the Incredible English. And there's lots of vocabulary in there that maybe they know, for example, they know oxygen, or let's say there's a word here, spikes. Spikes. So when they teach the word spikes, they'll say, okay, cactus have spikes, you know. But then they might not see that word again, you know, and then we might